Hello again. Thank you for making your way over to the sanctuary. Hope you all enjoyed your meal. It was our new church kitchen staff, kitchen director prepared that for us. So yes, thank you, Theo and team. We do have some new folks who are joining us. We have folks joining us online as well. So thank you for being here tonight. We are happy to have you all here. Again, I'm Stacy Stepler, Director of the Caring Forever Foundation. We're going to take a few minutes to learn a little bit more about the foundation before my conversation with Bishop Harvey. Right now, I'd like to recognize our Caring Forever Foundation board members. If y'all could just wave a hand or stand. They are listed on the back of the program, and last year's board is in the annual report. Mike Baker, I'm going to go ahead and invite him up here. He's our chair. Yeah. Mike is beginning his second year as the chair of our board of directors, and I'd like to invite him up to speak. Thank you, Mike.
Can you hear me now? So I told Stacy I had like an hour and a half of prepared comments, but I'll cut it down so we can hear Cynthia. Again, my name is Mike Baker. I'm on my second term as chairman of the Caring Forever Foundation, and tonight I'd like to share with you a little bit more about what the foundation is, and then I'm going to focus on kind of what we did last year. The Caring Forever Foundation is a supporting organization for the Memorial Drive United Methodist Church. It was created in 1988 and incorporated as a 501c3 organization in 1999. So while it is a separate entity from the church, it's closely related to the church. The board of directors has 12 members that are church members, including the senior pastor and the lay leader. And it's also staffed full-time by Stacy Stepler, the executive director, not full-time, part-time, and part-time by Lisa Nelson, administrator. The three primary functions of the foundation is to encourage and receive thoughtful giving, and Lisa Nelson is going to talk about that a little later in the program after me. And the second thing is that it awards grants. I'm sure you're aware of that. And that's kind of the stuff I want to talk about in a few minutes. And the third part is that we manage the Memorial Drive United Methodist Church Memorial Garden. And that's the garden that's located just on the east side of the courtyard here at the main campus. And it is a serene and private resting place for the cremated remains of church members and loved ones. So last year, we awarded about $125,000 worth of grants. It's all summed up in your annual report, and I'm going to talk about some of them, and some of them are going to be covered in the video that you'll see later on, but it's all pretty much summarized in your annual report. I'm going to focus on about 6 of them that totals about $50,000 in awards. The first one is the Memorial Assistance Ministries. They're a long-term friend of the church and of the foundation. Sonia G. is the president and CEO, and the mission of MAM is to build stable families, encourage dynamic workforces, and vibrant communities together, keyword together. They focus on things like basic needs of individuals, particularly in the area where they're located, or people that need help with things like rent and utilities. They focus on disaster assistance for like hurricane, tornado, flood relief, and even car wrecks, things like that. Help with employment, teaching people how to interview for jobs, things like that. They teach them financial independence, things that we might take for granted, how to balance a checkbook, things like that. And they teach English as a second language. So last year, MAM requested $5,000 for a program they called Pathways for Young Adults. And this program was to educate and motivate young adults to a kind of a positive work attitude, and then through social support and tailored employment assistance, they were able to have 117 of their people secured jobs, and they had 33 people complete their healthcare vocational training. So it's a pretty successful program that we contributed money towards. The second one is the Bonita Ranzau Scholarship. This is a new one for us. We were able to provide 3 scholarships last year, each of them about $2,500 apiece. And these scholarships are a little different than what you typically hear probably around here. This was earmarked towards people who are already in school, already in college. So it's like sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And these scholarships were actually given by the foundation, so we actually reviewed the applications and made the decisions on who won and things like that. This is different than what you might hear that the Memorial Drive Church Youth Group provides as scholarships to the graduating high school seniors. We have also contributed funds to help supplement those scholarships as well in the past. The third award that I want to talk about was to a group called the Cornerstone Family Ministries. Now, the Cornerstone, when I first heard it, I thought, well, it's part of a bigger deal, but it's really not related to any other Cornerstone entity you've probably heard of. They're located up on Gessner, North Gessner. They provide after-school care for, in this case, about 33 elementary kids, and that's what this grant was for. It's a $8,300 grant for healthy snacks and supplies for that elementary school program they have going on. We sent some people, I was one of them, to do a site visit to see what they're all about, and I have to say we were very impressed with the passion that the adult volunteers had, as well as the enthusiasm and vivaciousness of the kids. What the grant is for, like I said, is healthy snacks and supplies. And they said, things like fruit and yogurt. And they said there that these healthy snacks are probably the healthiest food that they eat all day. And they also have other programs like for high school kids and things like that. One of their programs they seem really proud of is they have a videography program where they teach high school kids how to make like a presentation on a video. The next one I want to talk about is the Galveston Housing Plus organization. This is a group that is actually owned or set up by 2 Methodist churches down in Galveston. They requested $10,000 to help kind of clean up they bought a dormitory from UTMB, and they were going to convert that into a place for homeless people. And so they needed some money to kind of clean it up. They had to fill in a pool, which I was surprised to hear a dormitory had a pool, but I guess that's Texas. But the objective is to make it useful for people to kind of transition from living on the streets in Galveston to living in this facility and hopefully moving on into their own homes someday. And the next next grant is the Check-in for Change. We provided $8,400 for the church this year in their new program where they were going to provide, so for every family unit that registered their attendance at a Sunday worship service, they were going to donate $1 to a local charity. So again, we did $8,400 worth last year, and as it is outlined in the annual report, there are several local charities that benefited from that. And the sixth one I'm talking about is just church beautification. We provided $12,400 for things like plants, shrubs, and flowers, and miscellaneous campus landscaping cleanup activities, things like that. We did about $7,000 in the first quarter and about $5,400 in the fourth quarter. So as you can see, the Caring Forever Foundation supports the church and many other local charities, and some as far away as Galveston. So you too can make a difference in the lives of people in our area. And Lisa Nelson is going to talk about that after I'm done. So I'd like to close by reading a quote from Sonia G., who's, like I said, is the president and CEO of MAM. She says, "Alone, none of us can change the world. But every time we act in faith, stand up for an ideal, fight against injustice, or help someone in need, we create ripples of hope. Together, these ripples become mighty waves that have the power to transform lives in our community." Thank you.
Good evening. I echo both Stacy and Mike in saying that I'm so grateful that you all are here tonight. It's so good to see everyone here in support of the Caring Forever Foundation. I'm Lisa Nelson, and I'm grateful to serve alongside Stacy as the Foundation's financial administrator, and we're so pleased to be able to celebrate tonight with all of you. As you heard from Mike, the Foundation was able to make a remarkable difference in both the church and the surrounding community in 2022, and we have plans to grow further and give more in 2023. Despite the unfortunate market downturn, our operating results were strong, and we are very thankful for your support. The amazing grants and scholarships that we're able to give out are possible because of your gifts. And one of the purposes, as Mike mentioned, of the Foundation is to encourage thoughtful giving. So we are always grateful to receive your general donations and those earmarked for one of our designated funds, which you can find a listing of in the annual report or on our website. We also accept with pleasure the gifts in memory or in honor of a loved one. Additionally, we're now in the fourth year of our Caring Forever Patrons program, which helps to underwrite our annual operating costs. So many of you here tonight have contributed in this meaningful way, and for an annual donation of $200 per family or couple, or $100 per individual, you will continue to allow us to put other contributions and earnings toward the important ministries and programs we support both here at the church and in our surrounding community. So we ask that you consider joining or renewing as a patron this evening. We also wanted to make you aware of the H. Eugene Cragg Legacy Circle, which recognizes and says thank you in advance to those who have planned gifts to the Caring Forever Foundation in their estates. Estate gifts to the Foundation really do make the biggest impact on growing our endowment, allowing us to do more for MDUMC and the greater community. As you heard from Mike, because of an estate gift designated for youth scholarships left by church member Benita Ranzow a few years back, we're now able to award several college scholarships to deserving students each year. We would love to talk with you more about including the Caring Forever Foundation in your estate plans. And as Mike also mentioned, the Caring Forever Foundation is responsible for maintaining our columbarium, which is in the Memorial Garden just outside the narthex. We'd be happy to talk with you if you're interested in the garden as a final resting place for you or your loved ones. The Memorial Garden offers a quiet, comforting space to draw close to God, to give thanks, and to remember. If you have any questions about the Memorial Garden, our designated funds, or annual giving, or planned giving, do not hesitate to reach out to Stacy or me. Our financial resources really enable us to positively impact spiritual, emotional, and physical lives of children, youth, and adults. And at the Caring Forever Foundation, the board and staff strives to be both fiscally responsible and generous with your gifts, to be difference makers in God's kingdom. So we thank you again for being here tonight and appreciate your continued support. It's now my honor to introduce our guest for the evening, Bishop Cynthia Fierro Harvey. Bishop Harvey is the newly assigned bishop for the Texas Annual Conference and is a former MDUMC pastor. Since leaving MDUMC in 2008, She has served in the office of the Texas Annual Conference and with the United Methodist Committee on Relief. In 2012, she was elected bishop and served for 10 years as bishop of the Louisiana Conference. Bishop Harvey has such a passion for the future of our conference and for the United Methodist Church, and personally, she is a big reason that I became a member of MDUMC. Back in the fall of 2005, my husband Greg and I were expecting our first child, and though he'd been a longtime member here, I had yet to make MDUMC my church home. It was Labor Day weekend, following a week of devastation in nearby Louisiana, resulting from Hurricane Katrina. That Sunday, right here in this sanctuary, I was awestruck by then Reverend Harvey as she detailed the thousands of evacuees our church had already fed, clothed, found shelter for, and otherwise aided. She had wasted no time but helped our church get right to work. I knew then that I wanted to be a part of this community that answered God's call to love and serve our neighbors right away. Bishop Harvey continues to answer this call and is a true difference maker, so we are thrilled to have her back in Texas and here tonight at MDUMC. So please now help me give a warm welcome to our very own Stacy Stepler and a conversation with Bishop Cynthia Harvey.
All right. Well, I'm so glad to be here tonight with you. Thank you for doing this. I thought that we would start off, well, first of all, I know that many of you do know Bishop Harvey from when she was on staff here, and then many people like me weren't yet a part of MDUMC, so this is our chance to get to know her. I'm going to start off with kind of a quick lightning round of questions. What's your favorite color?
Pink.
Pink. Favorite book?
Phil Phelps, Pillars of the Earth. Where are you?
What's your favorite restaurant here in Houston?
Oh, too many to name. We keep discovering new ones.
Yes,
So,
have you found a new one since you got here?
Yes, Copa, which is in Rice Village.
Yes.
We love that. Little place, Roma. It's a house on University at Morningside.
yes.
It's been a lot of things, but I had a great meal the other night. So we just the list keeps growing. We try not to repeat too many, so.
That's a good idea. What is your favorite thing to cook at home? Or to let Dean cook at home?
Maybe the better question is, what do you like to eat at home? Anything Dean Harvey cooks.
Excellent.
I'm not a cook. I'm a great sous chef. I clean up behind him, but I'm married well. Best cook, which is why it's hard to go out to dinner.
Oh, yeah.
Because he can do everything better. Yeah.
Awesome. What's your favorite hymn?
Yeah, I thought about this. The Summons is a favorite hymn. Come and Follow Me. And the other is kind of a strange one, but more and more each day, we usually sing the hymn of promise at funerals. Mm-hmm. In the bulb there is a flower, in the seed an apple tree. I mean, I just think that those are words that shouldn't just be reserved for a funeral. Yeah. So I keep going back to those words, especially right now. Keep returning to those words.
Absolutely. And do you have a favorite Bible verse?
Isaiah 43, Psalm 139. I have redeemed you, I have called you by name, from Isaiah. You are mine. And then goes on and says, do not fear. Do not fear. And I'm doing something new. Making paths in the desert. Then he asks the psalmist or the prophet asks a really hard question. He says, do you not perceive it? Can you not see it? And some days I don't.
Yeah.
But I'm making a new way in the desert. I'm doing a new thing.
You are. Well, I know you didn't grow up as a Methodist. How did you become Methodist?
I grew up Roman Catholic. I always say I'm a good Methodist because I was a really good Catholic. I grew up in a small town, and the church was just blocks from our home. And so my family was all also very Catholic. So we spent a lot of time in church. So I don't ever remember a time in my life that I didn't know Jesus, didn't believe. That just has never been a part of who I am. And I started asking a lot of questions. Those of you who know me know that I ask a lot of questions. I'm curious, and so I met with the priest and asked questions, and the answer was, well, it's just the way it is. It's tradition. So I wasn't really getting sufficient answers. And so we were in college. I met Dean, and he will tell you this. I met Dean because I was dating his boss. He always tells people that. And it's like, why do you have to tell people that? So I'm just going to tell you because somebody will ask him afterwards and he'll tell you anyway. But Dean had grown up Missouri Synod Lutheran. I'd grown up Catholic. We were at the University of Texas. And we had to find, like a lot of people, a middle ground. And we found that place in the United Methodist Church. And it was a place where you could ask questions.
That's right.
And it was okay. And it was okay for the person you asked questions of not to have answers. And so that whole exploration and discovery it's part of who we are as United Methodists, but I didn't know that at the time. I know that now.
Yeah, great. So you worked a little bit. Tell us about before you became a pastor.
Oh, yeah. I had a whole life before this. I spent 12 years in corporate marketing. I worked for a shopping center developer, and their home office was in Columbia, Maryland, which is what the Woodlands is actually fashioned after, modeled after. We called it Utopia. Everything was it's a very planned community in Baltimore, and in Columbia, right outside of Baltimore. And so that is where I spent 12 years of my life invested in marketing, and I will say to this day it's probably the best training I ever received to be a pastor and certainly to be a bishop. I still love the marketing, I love the creativity. That's maybe where the curiosity and the questioning and all of that comes from, but that had a lot to do with shaping me. There are days that I do miss sort of that part of it, and then I'm reminded that that's kind of what I do every day. Yeah.
So when did you first feel the call to ministry?
I've always felt a nudge, but remember I grew up Catholic, so there was never any female anywhere in leadership, so I couldn't identify. And it really became clearer and clearer, and this is going to be a long answer to a short question.
Okay.
But when we came to Houston in the 80s, we joined a church near our neighborhood on Jones Road and 290 because we thought, hey, it's close to the house, so we won't have to get up too early. Where's Jackie Green? I saw her earlier. She lived in the neighborhood. And so we went to this church. It was a little odd. The building was strange. And we got there, and we got to Foundry at 290 and Jones Road. And the senior pastor that had been appointed there, actually that church, by the way, was parented by this church. There were people that went from here to Jones Road. It was a room to grow church. And the pastor who was there, who started that church in the 80s, left the denomination and took 2/3 of the congregation with him. So we walk in, here are two young 20-something-year-olds. We had great careers, successful, and we were kind of like pastors, it was like, yay, fresh meat, here they are. And we got very involved in the life of the church. And still to this day, I was actually telling this story to someone today, because 2/3 of the people had left, 2/3 of the money had left, and left about debt for about 1,000 people, with 125 or so of us left there. And we cleaned the toilets, we vacuumed the church, we set up chairs, we mowed the grass, We did everything in the church because we couldn't afford to pay anybody. We really would take the offering plate on Sunday morning and decide who we needed to pay first. And it was a growing community out there at the time, lots of families. Believe it or not, we paid the nursery workers before we paid the pastor, because we knew if we paid the nursery workers that children would be taken care of and they would come back. It is still the most formative ministry I have ever done in my entire life to this day. Cleaning toilets, mowing grass, sleeping in church for a lock-in. Still the most formative ministry I have ever experienced in my life, ever. Agreed, Jackie? Yeah, Jackie was there
Yes.
cleaning toilets with us.
Well, you were here for a bit. Do you have a favorite memory from your time here at MTUMC?
It's funny
Good
that
story.
Lisa mentioned 2005. Ann Mart, when we I don't know, this is, urban legend, it really is true. We were responding to all of the people coming from Louisiana after Hurricane Katrina, and we noticed that all of the hotels and motels on I-10 had Louisiana license plates. And we knew we had to do something, and so we became the place in West Houston. All the other churches contributed. We had, it's nothing like walking out onto this parking lot over here and finding, 100 pallets of diapers in a morning. People were just delivering stuff to us because word had gotten out. We had just started introducing the loving God, loving neighbor mission statement. And it had been weeks. And in that moment, we actually had to put it to work.
Yeah.
We had to live it out. And Ann Mart was in the original racquetball courts, and Ann Abels, who is very organized, had it organized better than any Walmart you have ever been in, any Target, anywhere. And so we called it Ann Mart. But what it did for this church is it brought us together in a way that I don't think anything could have in that moment. And then living out the loving God, loving neighbor in real time, it was like, wow, we were actually doing it. And we did all, oh my gosh, we took care of pets. We enrolled, helped enroll children in school. We had a banker that brought their van, their minibus or whatever, and parked it out in the parking lot. We helped people open bank accounts. It was just like, if people said, this is what I need, we said, okay. And here's the great thing. Everything we needed was right here.
Yeah.
There was somebody in this congregation that could fill the need, whether it was the banker, whether it was the school administrator, whoever it was, we had everything and everybody we needed right here.
That's amazing.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, you might be interested to know that the racquetball court is now our mission room. And
That's appropriate.
Yes. It's our storage room for all the things that we need to give. So after you left here, you worked in the bishop's office.
I did.
What were you doing?
And it actually happened after Katrina and all. Here was my plan. I didn't want the bishop to know who I was. I didn't care that she knew who I was or knew my name, because I wanted to stay here.
Stay here.
And so right after Katrina, word had gotten out that we had done a really good job responding, and she called me one day. I was at home. I should have known this from the beginning. I was at home that day, and it was like a Saturday afternoon, and she says, Cynthia, this is Bishop Huey. And I was like, oh, what did I do?
Trouble.
And she said, we are looking for a director of missional excellence in the conference office. It's a cabinet position, and we would really love for you to consider it. and it was kind of right up my alley.
Yeah.
And I prayed a lot about it because leaving here was a pretty hard decision to make. But I knew then that calling to do mission on a larger platform was perhaps the greater call. And now I realize, I tell people, the people say, well, I'm called to be at Memorial Drive. No, are you called, or are you called to do this work? And so I said yes. And so I served there for about almost 3 years. And then the Haiti earthquake happened. And 2 of our leaders were actually killed in the Hotel Montana in Haiti. Bishop Huey was the president of UMCOR at the time. My office was downstairs. Her office, now my office, is on the 3rd floor, which just feels weird, y'all. It just feels really weird. It's like, dude, this is not my office. And my office was down on the 1st floor. Hers was on 3rd. And I had learned quickly that if Janice Huey called you to her office, I took the stairs because it would give me time to think. Because I knew it would always come with some big ask. And I walked in her office and she was on the phone and she says, well, I don't know, she just walked in my office, but I'm sure she'll say yes. And I was like, oh, really? And so we sit down and she says, we need somebody to go to New York to UMCOR with the 2 leaders having been killed in the Hotel Montana. And we have to respond to the Haiti earthquake. We need somebody that would be a non-anxious presence in a really anxious time. I'm like, hey, you're calling me. And so I said, well, you know, I'm an itinerant preacher. I'll go where you tell me to go. This is a Thursday, about 4:30. I told Dean when I got home, and I said, so Bishop Huey, when do you need me to be there? She says, Monday. I'm like, it's Thursday. And she said, yeah, Monday. And so Monday morning, February the 1st, I got off the plane in New York and walked into UMCOR, which was at the time located at 475 Riverside Drive, which is, they call it the God Box because every other big denomination was housed there. And man, that was an incredible experience. Yeah. I did ask Bishop Huey for how long, and she said, it's a temporary assignment, 3 months. I was there almost 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, and it was the greatest experience. I loved the United Methodist Church. I learned to really love the United Methodist Church in that experience. And I got to witness the United Methodist connection at its best. Whether we were sitting in the Democratic Republic of the Congo or Japan or Haiti or Atlanta, wherever we were, the connection at its best. And that's so foundational in what it means to be United Methodist, is that connectionalism. So my love for the United Methodist Church and getting to know people who were so rich, yet not in terms that we understand. And it's still a gift for me to have had that experience. Yeah. It's hard to even talk about it without getting pretty emotional about it. Yeah.
Well, after UMCOR, that's when you were elected bishop?
I was elected in 2012. I was serving at UMCOR, and I was on the delegation for the Texas conference. I was a jurisdictional delegate, pretty low on the election food chain, and I never really had thought about being a bishop. That was just not, there are people that wake up every day thinking, I want to be a bishop someday. That wasn't me. And I had a group of clergy women who, it was another meeting that I walked in a little late, and they said, we need to talk to you. And there were some clergy women that really would have been fine at UMCOR. I'd actually had already started thinking about, because that's a really rigorous role at UMCOR, and one disaster after another just wears on you. And I'd already started thinking about coming back to the Texas Conference. I actually had spoken to Bishop Huey. I said, I know all you can guarantee me is a minimum salary appointment, and I'll go where you send me. And I was open to that. And then my clergy sisters convinced me to think about this. I met with some spiritual directors of mine and did some really hard work, some hard discernment about that. And I never thought I would be elected, frankly. I even had people tell me that they didn't think I would be elected. Somebody, I think they were trying to be nice, said, well, you might get elected, but if you do, you'd be elected last. You know what he say? Thank you. And so Oklahoma City, 2012, I was elected, and I was elected first. And it's the first time that we had elected a female in 16 years.
Wow.
There had been a 16-year gap between Bishop Huey and myself. We had not elected a woman of color until me. And so there were a lot of moments where that's, it was like, okay, I'm glad I listened to my clergy sisters who paved that path. But an incredible moment for me, and it's been amazing since, and really hard too at the same time.
Well, you went to Louisiana.
I did.
What are you most proud of from your time in Louisiana?
Well, here's what I want to tell you what I learned. I learned to eat crawfish. It's a lot of work for not a lot of food.
It's true.
I learned all about Mardi Gras, which I'm kind of really missing right now. Somebody sent me a king cake last week, and Carrie, it was my first king cake of the season. Usually by now I've had a king cake a week. And I had to learn to love LSU football. Yeah. And you have to. But I don't know if this is, it's not about me, but I'm really proud of the resilience of the people in Louisiana. When I talk about disasters being, sort of cumulative, I mean, last year we were in the cone of uncertainty like 7 times. The year we had Laura, Delta, one right after the other. The resilience of these people, I'm just so proud of the response. When I got there, they told me, they said, when we don't know what to do, we know what to do. And I was like, what does that mean? And they said, well, when the whole world doesn't know what to do and it's chaos, we know what to do. We know what to do. And I got there in 2012. I crossed the Mississippi River Bridge behind the disaster response trucks because it was Hurricane Isaac. And so I walked right in, literally my first day, I wasn't in the office for 7 days. I was out in the field responding to a hurricane. So, I kind of walked in on my strength. I knew what to do. If I'd had some other really bishopy things, I wouldn't know what to do with it. But I kind of knew what to do with a hurricane. Yeah. So
That's fantastic. Well, just recently, you were president of the Council of Bishops. That seems like a really big job at a tough time.
It is. So there are about, at the time, now there are fewer, but there were 66 active bishops in the U.S., plus all the bishops in Europe, in the Philippines, and Africa. So your active bishops are about 100 and something, and then you've got then you've got all of the retired bishops. So the Council of Bishops is all of those people. This was during COVID, and so I was the president of the council for the 2 years that just rolled off last year, and we never have met in person. We still haven't. We still haven't. Our first in-person meeting will be this April. We have not met in person since 2019.
Wow.
And yet it's the most chaotic, just confusing time in the life of the United Methodist Church, and yet I had to lead all of that through Zoom. And it really is amazing of the work that we were able to do not having met in person since 2019. I mean, I saw colleagues for the first time a couple of weeks ago at an executive committee meeting, and it was like, oh my gosh, we have not seen each other since then. Yeah.
Good to get back together.
It allowed me also, being the president, it allowed me to be at a lot of different tables, if you will. Virtual
tables?
And also some in person, even prior to 2019, because as the president designate, I filled a lot of those positions, and before that I was the secretary of the council. Okay. So for almost the whole 10 years, I've been doing this work, and it allowed me to be with people in places at tables where really important things were happening in the life of the church. I was on the mediation team for protocol that you've heard a lot, some people might have heard a lot about. So sitting with Ken Feinberg, who was the guy that settled the BP oil spill. He's the guy that did the 9/11 fund. To sit with a Ken Feinberg, it's like I soaked that up like nobody's business. And just being with him, I kind of felt I was a little starstruck sitting with Ken Feinberg. But those tables just allowed me to learn a lot and talk about, raising the level of connection and love for the church, and some of the things that, people say that the United Methodist Church is about. I remind people that I've been in a lot of these spaces, and never once have I heard things like, well, let's just change the articles of religion. Or, this divinity of Christ, we just don't believe that anymore. Let's just throw that out. Or the virgin birth, or, all the things,
right,
all the things that you hear. Never, ever, ever, ever did I sit at any one of those meetings, tables, virtual or otherwise, where that was ever a conversation. So I just wondered, where did that come from? Yeah, where did that come from? So 11 million United Methodists. Maybe somebody one time said, this virgin birth thing, that's pretty outrageous. Well, yeah, God does outrageous stuff.
He does.
So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, gosh, coming home to Texas, that's kind of unusual. To come back to your home conference. Tell us about that day. It was just in November
Right over here. Yeah. Well, first of all, the Texas Conference has no history of returning a bishop home.
None.
Other annual conferences do this. Southeast does do there, and North, a lot of places. Texas Annual Conference has never returned a bishop home. And so I never thought this was even a possibility. I just, there were moments where I'd say, going back to the Texas Conference, especially right now, and I'd have friends say, that's never going to happen. Texas Conference never sends a bishop home. So I had just blown that off. Not going to happen. And so I'd love to tell you that is the most sacred, holiest moment ever. If you've ever been in a sorority or fraternity and you remember bid day, that's what that's like. They take all the bishops that have been elected into a room, like a small fellowship hall, and you stand there, and Dean and I are holding on to each other for dear life, and because we're itinerant, we don't know, we know nothing, and this is like real time, and so the jurisdictional committee on episcopacy is made up of a lay person and a clergy person from every annual conference. So they come in 2 at a time, and they walk over to whoever's their whoever's going to their conference. So paint the picture. We're sitting at West Campus in a small, very small fellowship hall. And so the two people from Arkansas walk in. They walk in and they go to Bishop Laura Merrill. And I said to Dean, well, I guess we're not going to Arkansas. Okay, and they kept coming in 2 by 2 and going. And then all of a sudden I realized there are only 4 of us still standing here. And I was, I kept up some, but I couldn't really figure out who's missing here.
Yeah.
And Tom Pace, the pastor at St. Luke's, and Don House, the layperson, come up to Dean and to me, and they said, "Welcome home." And we looked at each other and thought, we were in shock.
Yeah.
Is this even possible? And nobody thought we were coming to the Texas conference. And where it's like bid day, they tell you this, and then like 3 minutes later, they walk you out in front of the entire jurisdictional conference and present you to the conference.
Yeah.
So you don't have any time, to process.
it.
I didn't have time. Elizabeth our daughter, was sitting in the congregation. I couldn't even call to tell her. We walked out and she found out along with the rest of the people.
Wow.
So it's quick and it happens, but I never imagined that we would come here. But I will say, Stacy, that with every passing day, I am more and more convinced this is exactly where we need to be.
I'm so glad.
For this time, for this season.
Yes.
I know the culture. I know a little bit about the city. It's changed a lot.
Changed,
and I'm different. People are different that I've known forever. But I will, there's no one that would have come here that knows and loves these people more than me.
Yeah.
Nobody could have.
Right.
This is my conference. This is where I was raised. This is where I was ordained. This is my place too.
Yeah.
So with every passing day, I'm more and more convinced this is exactly where God needed us to be at this time in this place. Yeah.
We're glad you're here. Well, so many people here tonight know you, but what do they need to know about you as Bishop Harvey, not Reverend Harvey or Cynthia?
That's been kind of that's been an adjustment for me and for everybody.
Right.
And I think because I haven't been here since 2008, 10 years as a bishop and coming back into this role, I've aged some. I hope that I'm wiser, and I have grown more than I think I could have imagined that this role could have offered me. Some days I was sitting at before I left Louisiana, we had a gathering for clergy, and I was sitting at a table with young clergy, and I said, I was at this meeting with these entrepreneurial leaders. There was this guy, the president of Yale, and this person and that person, and I don't know what was I, why was I there? And this young woman turns to me, she says, well, you are the bishop. And I'm like, oh, yeah. I forgot. But, there is some of that, I'm still Cynthia Harvey, but there are those moments where I'm allowed and privileged to be in spaces that are pretty amazing. And I've just learned from the people around me and kind of just soaking everything that I can from them.
Well, you've had a little bit of time to see what's happening in the Texas Annual Conference. What have you seen that's exciting?
Oh, gosh. There's great hope. There's a lot of hurt, there's a lot of harm, there's a lot of pain, there's all of that. But I recently got to be with over a couple weekends, about 1,000 lay and clergy who, yes, they spent some time lamenting, but we pretty quickly moved to hope. and signs of hope and promise, and this idea that we have an opportunity at this moment that we've never had before. Never had before. The canvas is pretty clean, and it's a chance for us to paint a new picture, and that's pretty exciting.
That's exciting.
We've got 7 new faith communities that are spreading out all over the place. Schuler, you all know Schuler. He's like the superstar out in Cy-Fair. He's got a couple hundred people worshiping every Sunday. And what's great about these is it's also been organic. It's been the lay people that said, "Dadgum, we're going to be a church." And we've got a lay woman in Conroe that's starting a faith community. On Sunday, Dean and I were at a barn in Baytown and Mount Bellevue. It's the remnant from that area. And they're meeting in a barn. It's the only church that I can say that has a margarita machine, a tiki bar, and a disco ball. I told him, I said, whenever you landed in your own church, you're going to have a disco ball at least. And the pastor had invited me to bring those who were ready into membership. And when you're a church that's not really a church yet, you bring them into membership into the annual conference. And then once the church is chartered, then they decide at that point to make their profession at that particular church. So the pastor stood up and said, for those of you, they'd gathered information, who are ready to join this community of faith, would you stand up now? Dean, what were they? 80 people or so stood up. I have, other than maybe confirmation here.
Right.
I had to kind of gather myself in that moment. They're so ready to start something new. So I brought, 60, 80 people into membership on that day,
Yeah, that's good news.
with the tiki bar in the background. So we have 7 of those, the 288 corridor. We've got, anybody know where Chester, Texas is? There's a small remnant there from a Woodville church that disaffiliated, and there's about 30 people meeting there in Chester, Texas. There's a group meeting in Jasper with about 60 every Sunday. There's a group meeting in T-Berry. I used to pride myself, having done UM Army, that I knew every small town in East Texas. T-Berry, near Jacksonville. There are about 12 of them that have just said, by golly, we're gonna be a church. Home churches, all where people are saying, yes, we're United Methodists, we will be United Methodists, but it's lay people that are really starting that movement, which is pretty exciting.
That is exciting.
I mean, you can tell that, yeah, that's exciting.
That's great. That is exciting. Well, how can MDUMC and the Caring Forever Foundation, how can we be a part of this Hope for the Future?
Well, you already are. I was reminded coming today that I was the first recipient of the H. Eugene Craig award that paid for a portion of my seminary. So thank you to Dr. Craig and his family for that. The work that you're doing to transform the community and the people in the community, Michael Ginger, the work he's doing at Central, y'all, if you haven't been to Central in Galveston, it's worth a trip to Galveston. They've also opened a community clinic in collaboration with UTMB, and the first thing they do when people come into the clinic is they wash their feet. It's the most moving experience you'll ever be a part of. People come there for all kinds of reasons, but they need to be cared for in that way. And so they wash the feet and care for the body, and then they care for all the other needs in the internal part of the body for these people, and give them dignity and a reason for being. So those sorts of things, the feeding, that's what we're known for as United Methodists. So for you to continue to be about education and to be about health, whether that's mental health, physical health, whatever, of the community, I mean, that to me is very foundational to who we are and who we say that we are. So I think that is exciting to me. To thank you for what you're doing and how you've grown this foundation from its beginnings and from all the times where we had to restart, right? And now I'm just really proud to say that I was even here to witness some of that. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, is there anything we didn't cover that you wanted to tell us?
A bunch of people ask where I live.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, like,
They
are you
do.
going to buy your house
Yes, are you gonna
back
buy
right
your
over
house?
here?
Yes.
You know, I'm not sure I could afford to buy my house back in the neighborhood, for one thing. The conference has an Episcopal residence, and it's located in the medical center, just a block off from Rice University. If you go out our front door, you can see Texas Children's Methodist Hospital. It's kind of nice every morning. I drive out and there's the cross and flame, you know, that's kind of a cool reminder of my connection there. And it is about 7 minutes in traffic to the conference office, which is terrific. And it's a beautiful residence, and I'm just grateful that we get to live there. We've never lived this urban. We've always lived suburban.
Right.
So to be able to walk to dinner is really kind of a fun idea.
Yeah.
So we've really enjoyed being in that community and just learning our way around and developing our list of restaurants to eat. So yeah,
That's fantastic.
So I don't know what else I can share that maybe people here wouldn't know. A lot of you have asked about our daughter because you watched her grow up here. Because we moved here, she was just barely, she was 5. And she was here until she went to college and beyond. So you all helped me and Dean raise her. She lives in Dallas, and she is works for a showroom in the medical center, in the design center, and she helps designers design outdoor space. That makes sense. She sells outdoor furnishings, and she works with designers to design outdoor space. Does really well, living the life of a 32-year-old in Dallas, but these were her formative years. These were her formative years here, thanks to all my friends here that were, the Jane Field Camps of the world, who helped me learn how to be a mom when I didn't know what I was doing. So, yeah.
Well, it's been so good talking to you. Thank you so much. It's good to hear your words of hope and how we can all come together as United Methodist and just reclaim our
The
space.
future's our best. I'm Pollyanna, maybe. Faithful, yes.
Yes.
Our future's bright. Our best years are ahead. Our best years are ahead of us. I'm convinced. Smaller doesn't mean anything other than smaller. And our best years are ahead of us, and I think there's just great hope for the United Methodist Church. And I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm a United Methodist. We'll always be United Methodist. We'll never lead anybody anywhere other than to the United Methodist Church. This is my church. This is where I was raised and came as an adult. So this is it. This is it. So thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Well, you may have seen in our annual report, there's a quote, we've kind of been talking about it, from Mother Teresa. I alone can't change the world, but I can cast a stone across the waters to create many ripples. And we were working on our annual report, and the designer asked if we could use that quote in the annual report, and I said, yes, please. I have it framed on the wall of my office, and I really do think it's perfect for describing what the Caring Forever Foundation does. We don't always give the biggest gifts, but we give these gifts that make a difference and cast ripples across the waters, creating change. And we thought that some of our grant recipients could explain that to you better than I could. So we have a video. You'll see clergy and church staff and other people that you recognize on our video. So we'll take a look at that now.
I love the ripple effect of the Caring Forever Foundation. They have made a ripple effect in my life through the ways they have helped my family and me succeed. The Caring Forever Foundation has helped specifically with needs in regards to the Texas Annual Conference Emerging Leaders Fund. They've helped to pay for APPLE, which stands for Advanced Pastoral Leadership. They've also helped retreats and our executive team be able to do great gatherings utilizing local leaders who are helping in our organization. Specifically now, they're also helping with my degree at SMU as I'm pursuing a doctorate of ministry. I am grateful for the ripple effect of grace and love given from the Caring Forever Foundation.
Over the past couple of years, several of our outreach partners have been recipients of the Foundation's generosity through grants, which have allowed our partners to expand their ministries. Through the Foundation's generous gifts, Neighbors in Action, Family Point Resources, Memorial Assistance Ministries, and Kids Meals are able to expand their ministry programs, touching hundreds of additional lives through the services and programs they offer. Also, the drive-through community food distribution events that happened here at MDUMC during peak COVID times are another example to be highlighted from the Foundation's grant funds. Thanks to the Foundation's support, MDUMC was able to provide food to thousands in our community who were in need. All of these are examples of ways that, through the grants offered by the Foundation, lives not only in our community but around the world have been positively impacted, and the mission and ministry of Memorial Drive has grown exponentially thanks to the Foundation's generous giving.
Helping Hands was established by one of our members several years ago to help other members of our church that run into financial difficulties, whether it's help with some rent or utilities or something else that they really need assistance with in their home. Helping Hands can provide that assistance. So it's been a godsend for a number of families, and I'm glad to be a part of referring some of those families to the Foundation.
Last year, the Caring Forever Foundation helped us to start a new ministry initiative called Caring Corners, which are located in the narthex and in the Journey lobby. They're racks of pastoral care resources to meet the needs of people in a variety of seasons of life or situations that are challenging them. This year, the Caring Forever Foundation has continued to supplement our communion fund, which we use to provide funds for emergency shelter, grocery gift cards, sometimes filling and purchasing needed prescriptions for people who otherwise cannot afford it.
With the donations from the Caring Forever Foundation, in 2022, the Stones cast over 5,600 ripples of water, helping individuals through our services, our emergency food pantry, our toiletries, Christmas gifts for children, English classes, and financial aid for those that need help with rent or utilities.
BAM received a grant from the Caring Forever Foundation to help start our program, which is called Pomoja. Many of you already know about it. It's a program that pairs up refugee families with local Houstonian families. Pomoja means together in Swahili, which is the language that many of our community members speak. And it pairs up these families essentially just to form friendships, to accompany one another through all that life holds, and to navigate the complexities of the American social service systems, which can be very confusing even for those of us who might have grown up here. The first cohort of Pomoja launched out of MDUMC actually about a year ago, and since then we've had 2 more cohorts launch in the city, so we now have 24 families in Houston who are involved in this program. And all of that is only possible, all of this transformation is only possible because Caring Forever and MDUMC took a chance on piloting and supporting Pomoja.
I would like to thank the Caring Forever Foundation for your generous gift in helping my family and supporting me through my college education. I graduated 2 years ago from the University of Texas in Austin with a bachelor's degree in radio, television, and film. To anyone who knows me or has ever had a conversation with me knows how much I love movies. I've wanted to make movies ever since I was a kid. I remember one of my earliest memories was my dad showing me Steven Spielberg's Duel. Cut to 20 years later, and I'm currently the executive office assistant for Stephen himself. Because of your support, I was given an incredible opportunity and chance to earn an incredible education and also follow my dreams. Thank you again for the Caring Forever Foundation. I am immensely thankful.
Hi, John here at Kids Meals. Just want to say a huge thank you to the Caring Forever Foundation. The Ziploc bags you provide, which would hold our trail mix, our sandwiches, or any other part of our lunch items, that helps us feed a child for less than $2 a day. Also, by providing a free healthy lunch to our families, we save on average every family $6 to $9 a meal when delivered. That money then can be spent towards transportation, a car, utilities, or even housing. Think about the difference that makes. One stone thrown into the water can make the largest ripple. These Ziploc bags are the ripple for our families.
You had a part in shaping who I am as a pastor and as a leader. I am so thankful for the Caring Forever Foundation and for your support of your clergy as they pursue their educational goals. It is a good thing you are doing to create these ripples that have an impact in the kingdom of God. Thank you.
From scholarships for our graduating high school seniors to support for our work camp ministry, the Caring Forever Foundation has contributed a tremendous amount of time, effort, and resource to helping our student ministries out in incredible ways. And the ripple effect of that is that literally hundreds, if not thousands, of students' lives and families have been transformed by the generosity of the Caring Forever Foundation.
I was able to go on a mission trip to Honduras because of the Caring Forever Foundation. During this mission, I worked with hundreds of children leading a vacation Bible school type experience. Mission work that impacts children is a passion of mine, and with the help of the Caring Forever Foundation, that mission was made possible for me. Because of these opportunities for me to attend this mission, we are now looking at ways that MDMC can have a bigger role in this trip in the future. The possibilities of additional medical and dental missions are endless, all because of the foundation saying yes to this first step.
In 2019, the Caring Forever Foundation granted money to the music ministry for new choir robes, covering almost half of the cost. You see these robes used every Sunday in worship, giving visual unity to our choirs. What you may not know is that the money also helped us ship half of our old robes to 2 churches in Jamaica. The remaining robes went with our mission team to Kenya and were given to 2 churches there. The Caring Forever Foundation helped the choir make ripples literally across the oceans to add to the worship of Christians in Africa and the Caribbean.
Our grant was given in 2019 to act as seed money for the first Mom's Night Out, with the plan that it would become a self-sustaining program for moms with a speaker and dessert. Our first speaker was author Karen Stubbs, then therapist and author Dr. Crystal Collier. Last April, we welcomed author Amy Hannon. Unfortunately, COVID canceled musician and author Nicole Nordeman. Oh, and the plan worked. The one grant cast a ripple that has allowed for other speakers and hopefully many more to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'm really proud of the work that we've been able to do together with the foundation, with your support, and together we are difference makers. I hope that tonight you will want to cast your own stone and make an additional donation to the foundation. Like Lisa mentioned, you can join the patrons, you can make a donation that will go directly towards our endowment, but we just thank you for being here and hope that you've learned something tonight, and please give, help us continue to be difference makers here in Houston and throughout the community. I've asked Michael Jarboe, Reverend Michael Jarboe, to close us in prayer tonight. And right, you can grab that. No, come. Yes. Thank you.
We've been friends. We've been sitting for a while. Can we stand wherever we are? Most Sunday morning here is standing. Let's stand together and let us close in prayer.
Do you need, yeah.
Close in prayer. Let's bow our heads and pray. Holy and loving God, it's been a wonderful night tonight. What great news that we've gotten to hear together in this space. God, we just thank you so much for Bishop Harvey, for the words that she shared, for seeing her back home, and for the exciting future that she sees for our conference, for our church, and really for the United Methodist Church. Lord, be with us, be with her and Dean. And as we make this transition into leaving this place, might we be mindful of all the ripple effects that this wonderful Caring Forever Foundation has done this year and what is to come. We're grateful for this time together. So send us from this place with grace and peace. We love you, and we pray these things in Christ's holy and precious name. Amen. Go in peace. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.